welcome. My name is Nancy Ward with the Entrepreneurs Academy, and I'm thrilled to have you all here today. We have a fabulous guest speaker lined up, Mr. Gavin Duffy, and as he gives a shrug there. Um, we're all very pleased to have you here on behalf of the local enterprise office at Fingal, Oisin, and the entire team. This initiative was started in order to bring information to you to help you grow your business, as well as create opportunities for you to come together and share your experiences, network with like-minded peers, and grow your business from that service as well. So just quickly, what the plan is for today is we are going to have a chat there with Mr. Duffy and gain some, I'm sure, incredible insights from himself as to what he's doing at the moment and how he can guide us through these next few months as we go through not only COVID, but Brexit and some other issues there. Jump into 2021 with the right mindset. After that, we're going to invite you to throw your questions for Gavin into the chat, and I'll be trying to facilitate as many of those as I can and get those across to Gavin so he can respond to you directly. And then after that, Noel, I see, is actually in the room, but Noel will be with us for that portion of the agenda from the Entrepreneurs Academy to facilitate. We're using some new technology with Zoom in the breakout rooms. And if you were here last week, you experienced that firsthand. But if not, it'll be a first for yourself. And it's where we're able to label the breakout rooms, just as if you were walking down a hall in a hotel and there was a breakout room here on the left about digital marketing, one on the right about sales, and then one business to business networking. So you'll be able to choose which room you go into, and you just never know who you might meet in there. Potential client or someone who can be your sales ambassador and represent your brand nearly as well as you can. So that's what we're up to today. We've got a big agenda planned, and I don't see any reason to delay it further. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Gavin, if you want to unmute yourself there, why don't we go ahead and hear what you've been up to? I know you're doing lots of mentoring with CEOs across Ireland. And how is that going? I mean, it's obviously different than it was in the past. Maybe not, you know, I know you used to be hands-on and out on the manufacturing floor, but that's changed a bit, hasn't it?
It certainly has. What I have been doing here, hello everybody, what I have been doing here in the last 10 minutes, sort of in the waiting room coming in, is feeling like a proper slouch, because Alison Byrne, I was watching you, the amount of work you got done in the last 10 minutes before you actually sat down. She's now putting her hand up to her mouth, but I was able to say, I feel guilty because I don't know how many things you got sorted there in the last few minutes, Alison. And I see a very good old friend of mine, Don Harris. Don, how are you? Great to see you, and thank you for joining us today. I see Noel Davison is still in doing jail time there. Hi Noel, how are you? I hope you get out there soon.
There's a warning sign there when you see two of us turning up to be able to handle you today, Gavin. So it's normally one.
It could be that. As you said, Nancy, yeah, this 2020, I've been consulting with companies in a virtual way. So I spend my day, yes, we do Zoom quite a bit, but you know, I'm still living on the phone quite a lot. And what I'm doing is simply talking people through and giving them so-called benefit of my experience and so on, as people are dealing with, I suppose for businesses, I'm going to say the curse of COVID, because the real dilemma for you when your trade is restricted, you know, in some cases, and you know, government never understands this, you'd be better off altogether closing down than trying to trade in a limited way, because you still have the same overheads that you have to cope with. But dealing with, at the moment, I've 18 CEOs that I am consulting with around the country. And it's absolutely amazing, similar problems they're facing, and they're in all parts of the country and various sizes of companies. But the one thing that clearly I've gathered from all of this is, and the big message I want to get across to people today, if you're sort of a mindset thinking, we're coming to an end of COVID, there is a vaccine, and that's great news, or there's vaccines in the pipeline, and so on. And wow, we'll be able to go back to where we were before COVID. I just want to leave you in no doubt here today, that's not going to happen. So we're not going back to 2019, we're going to 2021. And 2021, the way we conduct business will actually be quite different, because we don't fully realize it yet just how dramatically things have changed in the way people do business. And you're going to see 3 seismic changes that you need to be aware of. And I'm saying, regardless of the size or scale of your business, whether it's a 3rd generation business, a brand new startup, a number of things have changed. First of all, the one that's quite obvious to everybody is the workplace, where we used to call a workplace, will be completely redefined. And I'm very fortunate to work with some great experts from around the world. He's an Irishman by the name of Chris Kane, but for Bloomsbury, New York, he just published a book recently. It's called Where's My Office? And interestingly, folks, this is a book he wrote and completed in January of 2020. So this is pre-COVID. And the book was explaining that in a number of years, the thought of us commuting for hours, wherever you were in the world, into a large city, to sit in an office for 40 hours a week, that was going to change, right? And he was predicting this. And what has happened is COVID comes along, and changes that were happening anyway suddenly get speeded up. And the long and the short of it from Chris Kane is this, that we're no longer going to be 5 days a week in a corporate office if we work for an organization. But we won't be working from home either. We will do that occasionally. We are going to be reorganized into what they're calling digital hubs. So this is great news for provincial towns, particularly like we'll say in Fingal or Swords or a Balbriggan, where you have large populations and so on. Now, because they're in the commuter belt of Dublin, they were still doing relatively well to a provincial town, we'll say, in the west of Ireland. But you would have seen that they would have suffered as well in recent years, etc., as we're all sucked into city centres and so on. But we're going to work from digital hubs, and what's going to happen is most people will go to a desk somewhere about 15 minutes from them, or work from home. You'll have that choice. But I need you to realise that is the new future. So if I was somebody like my very good friend Bobby Kerr, he's no longer involved, but when he was building up his chain of coffee shops, Insomnia, I would be running away from expensive city centre locations and looking to locate on very now empty high streets of provincial towns in Ireland. So, there are opportunities in every problem that occurs like this. But I want you to think about that, because that's only the start of the change that springs from that. The second big change is going to be in work practices. In corporate Ireland and in the corporate world, there's a whole raft of people that we call middle management, who have jobs, who are paid slightly better than most of the employees, but not as good as the SMT. And they all dream and pray they'll get to the SMT. And they're middle managers, right? But bad news for you today, sorry if you were a middle manager, right? Because that raft of management is simply no longer required, because their sole purpose prior to 2019 was to keep an eye on employees to make sure they were doing their work. Along comes COVID, we send people home, right? They work from home. And by the way, all of the research has confirmed people have been more productive working from home. So getting away from that sometimes 2-hour or more commute per day, even having that extra time. And I know we've all battled with how do you work from home when the children are not at school and all of those interactions. And very quickly you teach yourself, you get into good habits, you get into bad habits, but we are, here's a fact of life, more productive away from the big corporate office than we were in it. And therefore, when we saw outsourcing before now, you know, there are employment implications in this. It means corporations will probably outsource block work to people. But the point I'm making is the work practices as regards the management structures in companies, they're going to change. That has huge implications for one of my main businesses, which is professional learning and development. That's a fancy word for training. And, you know, you usually were training middle managers and so on. Well, if you wipe out all of that number of people, and, you know, corporations do look at the bottom line. So, you know, a lot of people have been saying, oh, what's going to happen to all the offices? Like, you know, they're in leases and they'll still be there because you'll need to bring people together for collegiality, camaraderie, to motivate them and so on. So you'll be in the office for some days during the week. But that whole structure that was there policing you, it's no longer required. And then for businesses like that are on here today, and forgive the wild generalization, but, you know, local businesses, what I'm saying to you is this, that even if you are an old bricks and mortar type of business, and what I mean by bricks and mortar, people have to go to you. They can't get your service online. And you're very lucky if you're in that sector. So that means, you know, you're a hairdresser or you serve food. I'm just picking two examples, right? What's going to be different in 2021 is people will still want to interact with you online. So you've spent years building up a business where it was all high touch, personal service, knowing every customer, you know, inside out. That has all changed. And I want to talk about the older demographic that we would have thought, well, look at, you know, they still like the parts of it. They're not online as much as the young people. And I'll come to that presently. But what do I mean by if you're a hairdresser? Of course, somebody will have to sit in the chair and you'll have to snip, or you'll have to do a perm or whatever. But they will no longer want to ring you up to make an appointment. They will want to go into their phone, get a diary, and book not just the appointment, but the particular man or woman that works with you in the hairdressing salon and is their favorite hairdresser. You know, I'm saying some of us are doing that already, but you're going to see everybody is going to be working online. And I'm conscious here that, you know, I don't want to talk on too much, Nancy, so if you want to jump in anytime, but just let me share something with you, because I swapped this story with people to let them understand how this was happening, because the one thing I want to stress to all of you is this: these changes were all happening. So, you know, you'll hear publicans saying, oh, COVID has wiped us out. Country pubs were closing in their hundreds. You know, they're no longer viable. Life has moved on and changed. So that was a sector that was under threat. Footfall was dropping dramatically for retail on the high streets of Ireland. You only have to look at the shops that are appearing on your high streets that would not have been there 20 years ago. So the person who's cobbler, they could only afford a kiosk in a shopping mall 20 years ago. Now they have a shop on the high street because it can't be rented. They're getting, so good news for them. But, you know, I suppose if you've a certain age of that I am. I'm 60, you know, and my mother used to say to me, don't darken the door if you come home with a tattoo. So I'm of that generation, you know, they used to warn kids about sort of the awful things of tattoos and so on. I'm sure they're harmless. But you know, the number of tattoo artists you see on the high street now, they were usually, you know, upstairs, you know, off a high street. Now they're on the high street. So look, retail was changing. And what's changed is, this is the shocking thing, we trust online recommendations from people we've never met. We trust that more than my friend who was in that holiday resort or somewhere. It's mad, but we've become conditioned, and we may not realize that people have changed in that way. So much so that I'm going back 5 years. 2015, my mother, who died sometime later, she died in 2017, great age, 90 and so on. One of the things she wanted to do, knowing that the end wasn't that far away, so it's about 5 years ago, 2015, she said, I was visiting her one day, she said, I'd love to see the sea again. And so I took it on that I would arrange a little break, take her out of the wonderful nursing home she was in and bring her to the seaside some weekend or for 48 hours, etc., and get a hotel overlooking the seaside. So I headed off to, you know the way it is, you think back to nice places. And I remember my current wife of some 27 years, my first romantic weekend with her was in Carlingford in County. So I went back to Carlingford to do a little bit of a recce. And, you know, my mum is going to be in a wheelchair, and I forgot, as soon as I turned up in Carlingford, I knew I'd made a mistake. No disrespect to Carlingford, but it's all very hilly. And so I'm there. So I pull up outside the tourist office, and I'm about to go in and just make inquiries, you know, are there hotels sort of better located? Don't judge me, but this is thought flashed through my mind. Hang on a second. If I go in there, the person in there is paid to make me stay in Carlingford. You know, that's the job of somebody in the tourist office and so on. And I could not believe it. Sitting outside the office in Carlingford in 2015, I whipped out my phone and started searching for hotels that way. So I had a paid human expert, far side of the glass in that building, there to help me, and yet I didn't interact with them. I trusted all of this anonymous stuff on my phone. So what I'm saying to you is this, and the takeaway you need from today is this. We've heard, and it's almost sadly become a cliche, oh, you've got to pivot your business to be more online. And I'm sure you're daunted and fed up hearing that. And, you know, that's so easily said. It's so damned hard to do. Some people are put out for it, and others are not as well put out for it. It's like all of the salespeople I'm dealing with now who were brilliant door-to-door salespeople. I'm looking at one of the best ones I've ever met, Don Harris there, right? Don, what I'm finding for a lot of salespeople, I'm embarrassing you now, but Don, you know, you were this great switched on salesperson, you'd build up a relationship. Now they can't go out, knock the door and meet the person face to face. And they've had to become a tele-salesperson. And believe you me, the best salespersons are struggling doing. There are people who work in call centers who are brilliant at telesales. They would be hopeless at door to door. And I'm not going around. Don was never going around knocking on housing estates. He was very sophisticated corporate animal. But, you know, he was representing people and turning up suited and booted and so on. The point I want to make, though, is you've heard about your business pivoting to online. What frustrates me is we need our government and our agencies telling you daily, not that you should pivot online, but that your customers have already pivoted online. And I'm going to give you a frightening statistic that just leaves no argument here. IPSO is the Irish Payment Services Organisation. For years, they've been trying to get people to stop using cash and encouraging you, incentivizing you to use your credit card. Because, you know, you don't have the same security implications if it's all electronically transferring. No matter what IPSO did, it could not get people over 40 to tap, right? Kids, I'm not saying to have credit cards at 12 or 13, but they'd happily tap, so, you know. But people over 40, money magically leaving their account without them putting in a PIN, for some reason there was a mental block. And we're talking about IPSO is owned by the pillar banks, so budget is not a problem here, and they've the best advisors and marketeers. Let's encourage people to tap. And the numbers were creeping up each year, but not faster than the population was dying off, so that they really were never catching up. And in 2020, tapping went up by 7,000%. You think we're going back to people sort of carrying around money? You know, it's just that train has left the station. You know, they're not going to go back to old world. And what I'm trying to get across today is for your business, don't be frightened by it. I'm not trying to alarm you, but I need to alert you that it's a very different world. So we're all looking forward to the end of COVID, but I'm asking you, please be ready for the new beginning. And that's why I call it the next normal. It is different, the way we conduct and the way we do business. And you are going to have to realize that your customers will want to interact with you online, right? And so therefore, you know, that might be, if you're the hairdresser, etc., and Alison Byrne has come in. Sorry, Alison, I don't mean to be sorry, but you know, Alison has come in, had a sort of, you might just you know, send. You don't have to be using big technology. It might be just a text 2 days later, saying, you know, Alison, how's it going? Such and such and such. Here's the way to book your next appointment, etc. We'll send you a reminder. And that's good customer service. But what I'm saying is, where in the past we would have thought when customer was in the salon looking after them, having pristine magazines, whatever, you know, nice surroundings, having a good chat, swapping the right bits of gossip, you know, that we do and we love doing if you're a high-touch, interactive people. That's not the, particularly as you go down the demographic. Younger people, they do not have customer loyalty the way that we used to cherish it in the past. And that's another big change that you've got to be ready for.
Gavin,
Nancy, yeah.
You've given us a lot to think about there. You've covered a lot of ground. One of the things that, you know, the local enterprise office is doing for these businesses, most of the people in this room, is making available the trading online voucher. And I think you're familiar with that. That's an opportunity where they can upgrade or create a website. If they already have a website, they can add that booking feature that you're talking about for hairdressers or restaurants, as well as for those bricks and mortar, those traditional, I think you used the word, shops. They can add a shopping cart now to their website. So that trading online voucher, knows the expert, but I believe there were 9,500 of those TOV trading online vouchers funded this year, in comparison to about 1,000 last year. So it's a huge government commitment that they've made. I don't know if we can show of hands, anybody who's done the trading online voucher. We can see it, there's lots of hands. Love that, love that. So in fact, if you haven't, if there's somebody out there that hasn't, let me just show you this. I'll just share my screen quickly. There is an opportunity to book in for Fingal Trading Online Voucher webinar Friday, 4th December. So if you haven't already participated in the Trading Online Voucher and you're looking for more information, that's the place to go. So I just had to jump on that, Gavin, because you set me up. So I'll slide you the cash under the table later for that. But the Trading Online Voucher is a great opportunity for anybody who's not either got a shopping cart or booking online capacity to their website, or if they simply need a proper upgrade, or if they don't have a website at all. The Trading Online Voucher is the way to go. Noel, do you want to add 2 cents there?
Well, back to Alison Bourne. I'm talking about putting the spotlight on Alison. Gavin's doing a great job on it there. Alison asked a question there. How far ahead is ideal to take bookings? So, Gavin, your thoughts on this? I have a calendar on my site. Should I let it show 1 month ahead or 2 months ahead? Because I know what you're asking, Alison. And you can jump in here, by the way. We'll get you to unmute yourself. You don't want to look either too busy or not busy enough. You know, I think that's what you're asking, isn't it?
Partly. And the other thing is, I'm not sure how my own calendar is going to go too far ahead. And I don't want to be committed and then have to change bookings. I don't want that at all.
Yeah.
I don't want to frustrate clients who want to book and
yeah, I suppose
it's not sure enough.
Yeah, Alison, I don't know if I want a customer who booked an appointment 3 months ahead. Sorry, I shouldn't jest, you know what I mean? But somebody who's that organized and so on. So, you know, I would have thought a month, 6 weeks is plenty, right? But the one sort of, a few issues come up here though, in regard to this. When people have moved online, it's almost as bad as when government agencies introduced procurement, which is the bane of anybody's life who tenders for work of state agencies, because no matter how brilliant or fantastic you are, they end up going with the lowest price. So our prices are pushed down. And what I'd like you all to do in the services you're offering, that you're trying to creep your profit margin back up. So, you know, if you say on your site, and it's something we did in a different business, but actually, you know, not different from the hairdressing example we're using, you know, yeah, you can get it such and such and such. But if you want to book a Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, this is the rate, and get it now. And it's funny, people without thinking pay an extra €7, €10 like that on this particular thing anyway. We also introduced it in one of the country's larger motor dealerships down in Kildare. And it's funny how people pay the premium to get the car in for a service on Monday morning. Now we're going to get collected, brought in, etc., and so on. Whereas, you know, if you wanted to do the service Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, we would do it for a certain. So, you know, we've to start creeping our profit margin back up. And then one thing, Noel, on what you said, I want to share this for what it's worth. There is this Irish thing. It's an affliction that we feel. We have to win business, we have to look busy. So everybody you talk to in Ireland, oh, Jason, terribly busy. Oh, I'm so busy now, I'm out the door. What are you doing? Well, I'm doing a lot of Zoom calls, and yeah. So your revenue is flying? Well, no, it's not. So you're not really, sorry, you know the point I'm making. This is a surprise to people. You will win a lot more business. Now, don't react too soon. Hear me out. You will win more business through charity than you ever will through competence. Right? So when you say to somebody, I want this piece of business because I'm the best person on the planet to deliver this service to you, yeah, I expect you to say that. When you say, no, give us the gig. We'll do it so well. We know what you need. We know what you require. No, we actually need this at this time. We're giving Noel 2 reasons to do business with you. 1, you're competent, and 2, this person is hungry and will really appreciate it. And therefore, I'm not saying, we're going to go cap in hand to people, not suggesting that. I'm purposely using the dramatic phrase, appeal to somebody's charity or their sort of sense of wanting to spread goodness locally rather than their competence. But for some reason, when we're in sales mode, we like to present the best foot forward, and that's all. We're the most brilliant, competent. My product is the best one in the world, and maybe it isn't, but this is the one that we have in your locality. I really do need this, and please do it. So I want you asking for business because you need it within reason. Does that make sense? Yeah, I see a lot of people nodding.
Yeah, very much. I think you've opened up the question flood coming through. So well done, Alison, for getting the first question in. So I'm going to take them in doubles for you if I can, Gavin.
Yeah.
Joe Shannon, he's in Skerries there, G Golf Ireland. Thanks for the presentation, Gavin. How do you see travel and tourism post-pandemic? And the second one, Declan Dooley from Excel Aviation. What existing skill sets of senior managers will now become more important to manage on the home/digital hub workers?
Okay, I do them in reverse because they working with a lot of senior managers, Declan, what we call soft skills in the learning and development world are always going to be important. So the more high tech we go, the more we'll look for senior management team to understand us as humans, not as assets. And therefore, skills, communication skills, how to interact with people. And I'm often asked, is that nature or nurture with people? You'll find that anybody in a company or any other organization who's a great leader, they have an empathy with people, and it's developing that and improving and honing their skills. And actually, it's got to such a stage recently in the last couple of years. Now, it had to go virtual during COVID. But the way everybody in America has a shrink. Well, sort of in Ireland, we seem to have life coaches, right? And by the way, great. But the point I'm making is that I think senior managers realize that's the one skill set. They can be a very competent accountant, or they can be a very good financial controller, or they can be a brilliant person who knows the operations of the business inside out and so well. But they overlook that you have to be able to interact and read people. And I think the really special leaders, Dermot, or Declan, should I say, are people who have this ability to know how to motivate people. And the way you might switch on Noel or Nancy might be different from Alison and so on. So they've learned that. They have the skill to be able to spot people's hot buttons. Travel and tourism, you could be worried, Joe, because we've heard so much about the travel industry and how seriously affected it's been by COVID. Yes, I don't think there'll be the same amount of business travel as there was previously, because now we've got into the habit of doing things online and doing them remotely and virtually. But somebody who's likes to consider myself a deal maker, I think anytime you're doing a big deal or something really important, people like to see the color of your eye and press the flesh. So I still think there will be business there. One big problem that the world is facing is, with COVID and all of that behind us, is that we are going to have more and more leisure time, as all of these efficiencies are introduced as a result of technology. So, if somebody was asking me to invest or would I take a gamble on the future of tourism, Joe, I certainly would. We're going to have it, and as soon as we've a vaccine and immediate testing, or testing people within 10 or 15 minutes, we should start getting back to normal as regards travel. Back to you, Noel.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Gavin. So Aina Mar, where do you see, actually, this is an interesting one from our point of view, because where do you see professional learning and development space going? Do you see online courses, training, webinars, etc., taking over from organizations hiring in trainers or delivering in-person training? Do you think there'll be a demand for in-person, post-COVID and development teams?
Yes, there will be, but I did do a post on LinkedIn a while back because I hosted and host annually the National Centre for Family Business in Dublin City University's annual conference. And I just found it fascinating this year that we normally in 2019 and the previous 5, 6, 7 years, that we would have 200 families represented at the conference. And, you know, there are, is it sort of almost 80% of all businesses in Ireland are family businesses, you know, but, you know, we have that. This year, the conference was like a lot of things online, virtual, etc. And I could not believe that 1,900 families attended online. And they had people attending online that they had never expected would turn up. So I'm not going to start mentioning the names of some of the huge successful family businesses in Ireland, but they were there. You know, and what I realized from that is for Noel, Nancy, myself, and people like that involved in professional development and learning, what's going to be happening, Aina, is it's going to be blended. We'll be doing, you know, there's certain things that if I wanted to say to you and I was coaching you in a post-COVID world, I prefer to do them face-to-face. It might be just something that you need to hear, a little bit of a direction or a steer. That doesn't mean I wouldn't be able to deliver a bulk of stuff online as well. So it's going to be very much blended. But back to trying to target very senior people in businesses, as that National Family Business Centre does, what they found was people with the best of intentions running family businesses, and you'll find this yourself, we're always fighting fires. And, you know, oh yeah, they've committed, they're going to go to the conference, and then evening before something crops up and they can't go. The fact that they were able to have a front row seat, that the conference was in the Helix, but it was empty. But the fact that they were able to have a front row seat in the Helix Theatre for a conference with a brilliant lineup of speakers meant 1,900 people watched it live on the morning, never mind all of the follow-ups. So, you know, they got to, in one conference, more people than they got to in the 7 or 8 years previously. And so, yeah, that very much tells us what the future is going to look and feel like. Oh.
Two more for you. This is an interesting one because with your radio background and knowing the media, good old print media, we're going back to it. So Chris has asked, online is very much influencer driven, as you said, in my sector, but how do you suggest you get access to them and the best approach regarding to print media?
Yeah, I always say to people, when you're thinking about marketing, don't forget about print media, don't forget about local radio. That's just because this is not just because that's my background and so on. But obviously, as they've come under competitive pressure from Facebook and digital platforms like Google and so on, their rates have come down, and there's remarkable value to be had. And the one thing I'm always saying to people in marketing is, so let's say, you know, you're considering the Fingal Independent. Just let me say to you this, you're better with a small ad running regularly in the Fingal Independent and doing a deal with them for 3 months or 12 months. It doesn't have to be big, but actually something seen regularly, right? And, you know, most good local newspapers, and the Fingal Independent is one. And people say, oh yeah, but there's a lot of free sheets of it. Yes, its numbers versus where it was probably in the 80s are that, but you're still getting to 25,000 people or more, and I don't know the figures of, but you know, a good local paper like that would have those sort of numbers and so on. But if they're seeing it regularly, and I often say to people, they'd be shocked and surprised how little they would get an ad appearing every week in a local newspaper, and just what it does for top of the mind awareness, along with everything else you will be doing. And finally, I'd say this note: people say, I can't afford that. I like to remind people of all the blackmail businesses suffer in any 12-month period. And many times has your arm been twisted and you took an ad in the program for the Fingal under 12s GAA final, where there was 25 mammies and daddies and 4 dogs. And you put an ad in the program. What I'm saying is we react a lot and we do little things, you know, and we're all part of the community. And I'm not saying don't support the community, but if you plan your advertising and your marketing, you'd be surprised how much of a bang you can get for your book. I went slightly off there, but I just wanted to make that point now.
Oh, that's super. I'm going to do one final one, but preempt it. I'm going to suggest, and this came courtesy of Breed O'Sullivan, Gavin. We're evolving this whole format over the last couple of weeks, and we're being a little bit brave with the new feature of Zoom where you can join your own breakout room. You know, so we can name them and ask you to join the one of choice. So this is the question out to you just before we put a few more questions to Gavin and finish out. Breed suggested a kind of a bulletin board. We have one. It's a chat room. So we're going to throw it out to you. What themes would you like on the breakout rooms? We will set them up live for you, and then you can choose to go into them. So one, we have a new initiative called Search for Local. Shop local. So we'll open up one room with that. We can have a business to business room. We can have a financial advice room if somebody wants to give or receive, and that this is totally up to you. We didn't want to dictate it. So if there's some theme you'd like to be included, now is your time to put it in the chat, and we will set that up over the next couple of minutes as Gavin takes the final few questions and Nancy closes out with them on a couple of the issues. So Gavin, you gave a lovely tip of the hat to Don Harris. So Don is giving you the tip of the hat back and sending a question your way. Thank you, Gavin. Generous as always. He's saying, I appreciate your comments greatly. Can I ask you, what is the ideal pre-sales period and nature of selling online for programs? So he senses that the USA style of overkill is not so appropriate here in Ireland. So when is too many messages in your face enough, and when should that button be pressed? Enough is enough.
Yeah, I one of the things that when I'm dealing with companies is trying to convince not just the CEO of the company but everybody in it, would you pick up the phone and talk to people rather than emailing? You know, people think, oh, look, I've done that, I got it off my desk, and to fire off another email. And I've had 5 or 6 emails asking me to get in touch or do something about this, that, or the other. And it doesn't work. So, you know, there's nothing like a phone call. One of the things that I've found is, remember earlier on I was talking about everybody's pretending they're busy? We've started doing something. And, you know, we sometimes refer to it as, it's called by the clients, the Gavin Duffy playbook, right? But in the, you know, companies that I'm advising at the moment, we're doing most of our phone calls to potential clients and existing clients on a Friday afternoon. Now, that goes contrary to everything we would have done prior to COVID. We find people are at the end of the week, I don't know, they're more reflective, they're more, I shouldn't say this, malleable, right? But and even I found this myself, because this was the feedback that was coming back to me, and I said, oh God, I'll try it. So 2 Fridays ago, I decided to phone a few very, very senior chief executives. Okay, I know them and I have the advantage of having a good network and all of that. But I shouldn't say this. I think they were lonely. You know, I put a call through, and we ended up having a great. Now, I'm not saying I've got a big bit of business, but then if you apply the thing of, you know, being honest with people, not going for competence, not going for, you know, just looking for a favor, you know, how's your, yeah, fine, yeah, and go, yeah, busy, yeah. But you know what? I haven't done something with your company for a while. And really, is there anything you can, you know? And I'd say something as awful as swing me way. You know what I mean? And that was Friday week. The Tuesday or following Wednesday, 2 or 3 other people from within the companies I'd spoken to were on to me saying, so-and-so asked me to get in touch, Gavin, are you available for X or Y? So I didn't set out as a shaking the trees sort of scenario, but actually a lot of fruit fell off the trees that I hadn't realized I was shaking. Now, Noel and Nancy, there's something I want to say to people if you're putting them into Zoom breakout rooms, right? And it's a general comment about networking, and this is a takeaway I want from all of you today. Will you please stop telling people what you do, right? When you meet people, we all sort of tell them what we do or how wonderful our product is. Will you please just tell them how you're going to solve a problem for them? Okay, that's all you do. So when you meet somebody, you don't tell them, you know, you're a plumber, right? Let me tell you that a few years back, I'm at a Christmas fair locally. You know, the type of thing where, you know, people give now, oh, Christmas won't be the same this year. There's some awful sides to Christmas as well. You have to go to Christmas fairs where these old dears who bake awful cakes, sell them to poor innocent people going by, and you have to buy them because it's supporting the local charity, you know, and so on. But anyway, I'm there, and this guy walks up to me, right? And I would have thought, now, by the way, I am the worst social distancer person, so I'm high touch. This guy invaded my space. Like, sorry, he didn't introduce himself to me. He assaulted me, right? So like up on top of me, and you know the type of guy from the country who sticks the business card in your top pocket. I was wearing a jacket. Here, Gavin, no, stop there for a second. And he says to me, Gavin, in your fine big house over there now, Gavin, you know you run 2 boilers. This guy knew more about my house than I did. You know, Gavin, you run 2 boilers, right? And their pressure. Their pressure, Gavin. If you get a burst pipe in the middle of the night, Gavin, I'm telling you this, Gavin, you'll be drowned. So if you ever have a burst, blah, 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 right? So, you know, it's okay, thanks, right? He didn't say, hello, I'm Joe the plumber. He gave me, but funny thing is, I arrived home, and because he'd made that, I never know. I didn't know the pressure. I didn't, you know, and so on. And funny thing is, my plumber at the time was from Bolton Glass, because I'd used him for my commercial work as well. He was a big plumber, and I was just saying, yeah, you never know, right? Now you're going to think, oh, and I had a burst pipe in it. Oh, wait till I tell you. My mother-in-law, Blanid, 2 weeks later is talking to her on the phone, and she's saying, oh, you know, problem with the boiler, and we need to get it serviced, etc. And I said, Orla, I'm the very man, right? I went over and gave the number, etc. Right? He followed up with Blanid. Blanid lives in Kilmacud Park in, you know, close to Dundrum there in Dublin. Stillorgan, sorry, Kilmacud Park, right? Now, yeah, he turned up and he cleaned up after him and he was brilliant, right? But he's some operator. He sold solar panels to people on that road. I don't know if they needed them, but he's, you know, he sort of, because he got a recommendation from Blanid, etc. But the thing is, he was a problem solver. And, you know, you're going to go into a network room here and people say, and what's your business? And we always give some abstract version of it, right? So, for example, let's say you're a printer. People would say, if you ever need printing No, plant it into somebody's head so they'll never forget you. Because all printers these days, with the technology and the machinery, they all print good stuff. So saying you're a great printer doesn't distinguish you or differentiate you. But when you're meeting people and you're the printer, Gavin the printer, what you say to people is, I don't know about you, but if deadlines are important to you, because you can get the best printing job in the world. If it comes to you late, you've missed time to get the stuff out. That's the most expensive bit of printing you've ever done. So if you want printing always on time or ahead of the deadline, I'm Gavin the printer.
That's brilliant. Now, one final question, and the reason I'm doing this, I was nearly going to close it, but I want to set the scene for as the week's going forward. You remember there was two ways of asking questions, which was in the chat, or you could be brave enough, and well done, Aoife O'Brien, to raise your hand and say, I'd like to be unmuted and speak to Gavin Duffy directly. So Aoife, over to you.
Thanks so much, Noel. Yeah, I thought I'd take this opportunity. Thank you so much, Gavin. Really lots and lots of food for thought there. And my business is Happier at Work, and I help medium-sized organizations to retain staff using a values-based approach. So I'm very curious about the future of work and totally agree with everything you've said in relation to it being accelerated at the moment. What I'd love to know is what challenges you see for businesses in the future to retain their top talent, given this new way of working. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Well, the good news for you, Aoife, is I think your service is going to be more in demand, right? But Aoife, I'd even like to hear you pitch it in a way I'd have to have it. So don't describe, and I know you picked that up straight away, but I need to, if you say to people, wow, people are coming back into the office shortly. How geared are you? Because you have good ratings in the past for a great place to work. And yet that whole collegiality, camaraderie has dropped off. But I can work with your company and just make sure we get that. Because, if I don't mind saying, Nancy and Noel, they may not admit it, we're sort of ourselves in the happy, clappy business that, you got to go in, motivate people, make them feel better. And that's missing at the moment because people are remote and so on. So I think there's going to be more emphasis. So, all that money that's been saved on middle management, if you don't get a slice of it,
yeah,
well, it's your fault, okay? And that's the one thing I want to say finally to all of you, that I am convinced, though I've said things are going to change dramatically, right? There are more opportunities in the new order than there was in the old one, specifically for provincial Ireland. And I know Fingal would never be described as provincial, but I mean those in the commuter belts of the big cities around the country where, as I said, we're going to have different structures, and there's a chance to get and breathe life back into the high streets of the Ashburns, the Fingal towns, Balbriggan, Swords, and so on, Skerries. There are great opportunities there. So there are many opportunities, but what I was hoping today is just to make you aware that, I am concerned that people are, it's nearly coming to an end, and they think we're going back then to where we were in 2019, and you've got to set sail for a very different world that will be 2021, certainly from Easter onwards in 2021, I imagine.
That's super. Thank you, Aoife, for being brave with the blue hand. We will continue that going forward. Nancy, I'm going to pass to you to close out with Gavin, and then I will go to the breakout room. So Nancy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Noel. Listen, I just want to, on behalf of all the participants today, thank you, Mr. Gavin Duffy, for your advice and sharing of your experience and expertise. As Felicity said, great advice, Gavin. People want solutions. So I just encourage us as we go into the networking rooms to not only gain information and learn from others, but if you are going to share who you are and what you do, be sure you talk solutions based. So Gavin, thank you again.
Thank you. And Nancy, I just want to say to you, though I'm absolutely delighted for the Entrepreneurs Academy, and Joan Hession had the good sense to headhunt such a talented person, I am a bit sad for the Heart Foundation, because you worked there and you were one of its stalwarts and you did fantastic work. And
You're very kind.
It's a great charity, but
Yeah.
you're putting your great skills to use in the academy, and I know we're getting the benefit of it. But to you, thank you for all of the fantastic work you did in the Heart Foundation as well. So well done.
You're very good. Gavin and I have worked on a few events in the past for the Irish Heart Foundation, and so we have that relationship in our history. So Gavin, thank you again. We're going to move to networking and breakout rooms. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Noel. Gavin, thank you so much, and we look forward to the networking.
Oh, thank you very much. And Gavin, a tip of the hat back to you. If you go into gallery view, you're going to see a big virtual round of applause for you because they're all still muted, so you won't hear the sound. But Gavin, thank you. I don't know where the time goes. You know, I remember when we were talking, I said, yeah, it'll be only about 30, 40 minutes. Yeah, it's never 30 or 40 minutes, Gavin. So thank you so much.